This is SEC Football Live here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by ML Rose. 6 great locations all across Middle Tennessee, craft beer and burgers. My name is Braden Gall, and that is John Nabors of Inside Arkansas. John, good to see you, my guy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. The weather's finally starting to get a little bit warm over here, but it just means that we're that much closer to SEC football media day, so it's going good.
I've lived in Nashville and in Tennessee since 1996, and I'm still not used to the humidity. This is not my favorite kind of weather, that is for sure. But we're going to talk ball today. We're going to talk Arkansas. We're going to talk Hogs, and we're going to talk about the future, the coaching staff, the administration, the commitment, the support, the resources, the roster, etc. But first, of course, if you're ever in Nashville, you Arkansas fans, and by the way, this is completely off the beaten path. I did not tell you we're going to talk about this. Absolutely, when I first planned a trip to the Ozarks with my family a couple of years ago, had no idea I needed to consider like 700 square miles to decide where to go. We ended up going to Missouri, so don't hate me for that. But my next trip is going to be to Arkansas because I love the whole Northwest, the lakes. Table Rock I know is in Branson, but like that whole area, love it over there, man. We big fan. The kids loved it. Can't wait to get back. I don't know why I just thought of that.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful place, and sometimes I take it for granted for living here because I'm from Fayetteville originally, and it's an awesome spot. But we don't want too many people knowing about it because we don't want it to get too big. So it's like
Okay.
a nice kept secret here in this country.
All right, don't tell anybody. But what you should tell everybody about ML Rose Craft Beer and Burgers, best retailer of beer that is locally brewed in Nashville. So if you're coming to visit Nashville or if you already live here, you guys know the deal. Tons of great new breweries in this area, and all of them sort of handpicked and selected by ML Rose. They very carefully curate their beer taps, only the best quality of local beers. And my wife says it's the best dipping sauce, the best ranch dipping sauce in the city. So I don't know what that counts for, but it counts for something. And then Saturdays and Sundays, they got the brunch menu, 2-for-1s, of course, and the SEC sandwich, which, of course, branding. So there you go. They got the SEC sandwich. All right, first question for you. What was the fans' journey like with Sam Pittman at the start of the season last year through the end of the season last year? Explain what that was like for an Arkansas diehard in terms of evaluating Sam Pittman in the future of the program.
Well, in the beginning of the season, it was truly just based on one thing that everyone was excited to see, and that was the return of Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator. For those of you that don't know that story, just Google it because there's a pretty interesting connection with Arkansas and Bobby Petrino. But either way, Sam Pittman went 4-8 the previous season, and a lot of people wanted him gone. But hiring Bobby Petrino as the offensive coordinator, bringing in a whole new offense, a new quarterback in Taylen Green, people were willing to say, all right, well, let's see how you bounce back here. Let's see how you bounce back. You got a really good home schedule. You know, your toughest games in the SEC are at home. And it seems like it could be a year to where you kind of get back on track. It wasn't about going to a bowl game. I would say it was about, I always felt like you needed to go 7-5 to really kind of swing that pendulum the other direction. And then the year started, and in the second game of the season, Arkansas goes to Stillwater and Oklahoma State and looks great in the first half or so. But in incredible fashion, Arkansas blew the lead of that game. Things came crashing down. Arkansas had to have so many things go wrong for them to lose that game, and it really kind of set them behind. And they didn't really have any really great performances until they beat Tennessee at home. That was a huge victory for them. Of course, Tennessee went on to play in the playoffs, and Arkansas rushed the field, and that was that one great moment. But that was it. I mean, that was really the only win that people got pumped up and excited about. You won games against Auburn on the road, Mississippi State on the road, and all that, but it didn't really do anything for you. You go 6-6. You go to the Liberty Bowl against the Texas Tech team that had pretty much just bodies out there in the secondary, and you just had it was fine. It wasn't a good season or great season, but I think the way the season ended and losing to Missouri the way you did, a lot of fans wanted a change. They wanted something different because they had seen it with Sam Pittman, and it just wasn't it. On top of that, you started losing literally all your best players to the transfer portal. I felt like Ole Miss has half of Arkansas's roster over there because they took so many of those players, and Arkansas didn't really add players to replace some of those quality players. And so I've been a Razorback fan, grew up a Razorback fan my whole life. I've been covering the Razorbacks for over a decade now. And I can tell you this, going into this football season, this is the least excited, the least energized Razorback fans have been for football in my lifetime. because of the fact that Sam Pittman is still there. No one's excited about it. You have you have some good players, but you lost so many to other SEC schools. The schedule is one of, if not the most brutal schedule you'll ever see. So there's just not a lot of excitement about Razorback football and the future of it right now.
This might be a weird question, but if they lose to Tennessee, and maybe they lose some other game, and they're 5-win team, 4-win team, and he is fired. I know the buyout was tied to sort of like his overall record, right? Like his overall record against I think FBS teams, and he was kind of above that start of the season, kind of stayed above it the whole time, so the buyout didn't go down at any point. If that happens, are fans more like? They did make a step forward. They took progress. They had the big win against Tennessee. They were a better team. Are you telling me in a weird way that it almost would have been better for them not to have gotten better?
I mean, in a weird roundabout way, as far as excitement and energy for this upcoming season, yes. There should have been, because no matter what, in coaching and in college, especially if you have just a change at the head coaching position, even if it's not this big name, there's still just going to be an element of intrigue and excitement. But Razorback fans feel like after 5 years of Sam Pittman, you kind of seen what it is. And I keep bringing this up, and I don't think people talk about it enough, at least here in Arkansas. What's made it exponentially worse for Pittman and everything is seeing Ole Miss be successful, seeing Missouri be successful, programs, teams that Razorback fans in general think that at minimum they're on the same playing field, maybe even a little bit better, but they're having that success. It's one thing if you have Texas and Georgia and LSU. I mean, those are the teams that are always going to be it. But when you see South Carolina, when you see these other programs having more success consistently than you, and you're sticking it out with a coach that nobody really truly believes in, and it seems like an athletic director that doesn't want to be here, everybody just kind of shrugs their shoulders, and it makes it to where you're like, why should we as fans care if it doesn't seem like the administration cares? And obviously you can't blame it on NIL or this or that, because Ole Miss seems to be doing just fine. Granted, they have Lane Kiffin, I get it, but they're doing fine. Missouri's doing fine. There are other programs like Arkansas doing fine and having excitement. And I think that's just what makes it so much exponentially worse.
I think it's fascinating, Missouri and Ole Miss. Those are really interesting case studies in how to manage an organization and a roster and a situation. Now, is Eli Drinkowitz and Lane Kiffin slightly better X's and O's wise than Sam Pittman? I think that's pretty safe to say. But I think the difference between Ole Miss and Missouri and sort of previous versions of those two programs is how they are going about managing the roster. And Ole Miss is doing it a little bit differently than Missouri, but in a kind of the same kind of way. They are different. Ole Miss is a little bit more flash, bigger spending, etc. Missouri doing it sort of on the back end, although their legislative body very much backing up what they're doing there. I agree that Arkansas should be, if all things are considered equally, that Arkansas should be able to do exactly what Missouri can do, if not more so. Maybe on par with Ole Miss. I think they're probably, I would say, being the biggest dog in the state, access to Texas, old school recruiting rules probably should be better than Ole Miss, but it's a new game. So here's long-winded question here, which is, you've got coaching acumen, you've got roster management, you've got leadership, CEO ability. Like, break down where, because Sam Pittman, from a likability standpoint, way more likable than Lane Kiffin and Eli Drinkowitz. Just generally, you're going to root for that guy as an outsider, right? I'm not connected to the program. I've talked to him enough times to be like, this is a good guy that I'm rooting for. Break down the pie here of like what Arkansas is not doing well. Is it just the roster management? Is it general manager? Is it NIL? Is it resources? Is it the coach that's holding them back? Is it on the field schematic problem? Like, where, break down the pie here, because Missouri and Ole Miss are doing things in a very unique way.
Well, to me, I think that first off, Sam Pittman, I agree with you. It's like Razorback fans in general, they may want change, but it's not like they have this deep disdain or hatred for Sam Pittman. It's like, if you were going to have Arkansas win a national championship in football, everybody would love to see Sam Pittman's name on the trophy, and him holding it up.
Yeah.
So it's nothing like that, but it's a performance-based business, and you got to perform and you got to win. And I think it's obvious that Sam Pittman is not an awful coach. He's not an awful coach, but he's also not to the level of a lot of his peers in the SEC. People are accepting of that. But to me, in a roundabout way, I almost feel bad for Sam Pittman because I feel like the administration has kind of failed the football program in general because the athletic director, Hunter Yurachek, made it pretty known in the beginning. He was very much not on board with NIL. And they had some things happen and where it felt like other teams and other schools were passing Arkansas by when it came to their approach and to their aggressive nature of getting players and keeping players. And they just kind of kept thinking that this revenue share is going to be the life jacket, the life preserver for them, which I kept disagreeing with because, as I've said many times, everyone's going to have that. It's not like some sort of special thing Arkansas has.
It's just
Everyone's going to have it.
It's just moving everybody up $20 million. That's all it is.
Yeah. And so I think on that, and on top of that, seeing the amount of players that you lost to other SEC teams, quality players, and then not being able to gain it, I just don't think that they support and have been supporting Pittman the way that they needed to. Now, granted, there's people, big donors and whatnot, they don't want to put in a bunch of money into Pittman if they don't believe in him. As I've always said, like millionaires and billionaires didn't become millionaires and billionaires by being stupid with money. They're not going to invest if they're not going to get something in return.
They are stupid around college football, though. Just for the record.
Listen, they can be. And that would be maybe the exception to the rule.
See Auburn.
Yeah, true. But it's like they want to make sure that there's a return on investment. So there's a little bit of that. But I think what's the big parallel here, and I know I'm really going deep diving with this, but I have been using the word disconnect for about a half a year. Ever since the season ended last season, there's a massive disconnect among the administration at the University of Arkansas and the athletic department and the fans. Because if NIL was a problem, if NIL was truly an issue that Arkansas was struggling with in the football program, as an athletic director, what I'd be doing is I would be banging down the doors right and left, tweeting out every day, give, doing whatever I can to have just say, hey, it's not where it needs to be. We need help. We need help.
I mean, Texas Tech, after you beat them, Texas Tech literally was doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great because what that, people can get upset and say, well, all they do is ask for money and stuff. Okay. But that's what you got to do. And it would be one thing if the NIL was just fine, but it's obviously not. So why has there been such an anti-NIL stance where if the NIL is a problem, you're not asking anyone for help. You're not going to the common fans for help. You're just almost seeing like, well, we're fine with the way it is. That's exactly how you get Razorback fans to turn on you and turn on the program. So it's just an unfortunate thing to where I feel like Pittman he's not to blame for everything and all the failures that's gone on. Granted, there's been some in-game stuff. We're talking about on the field stuff that I think that's cost him at times. But it doesn't matter who you hire. If any coach came in here and had the same exact support system and setup that Pittman had, I don't think they'd win at a high clip either. That has to change, and that has to be addressed in order to support the football program and the coach, no matter who it is, to try to set them up for success.
Yeah, and I feel like I've seen this in other places where it's like they're not going to do it because they don't believe in him, but they don't believe in him because they didn't do it.
Right.
And so it's almost like this cycle and this loop that's, like you've said, it's not fair to Pittman, but you're not going to change their minds because it's kind of already been, people have already made up their minds. And if there's the new coach, you could fire Sam Pittman and hire a coach who is going to be terrible. But you're going to buy into that on the front end of the administration, at front end of his regime, because you realize that the thing has to change whole cloth, or whole hog, I should say.
Yeah.
And so what'll happen is, whether he's good or bad, you're going to change the infrastructure. Tell me if this sounds right. Sam Pittman has a bad year. They struggle. They make a move. They hire somebody new, but they do a wholesale changing of the infrastructure and the resources and the commitment and everything. It almost doesn't matter if that guy's good or bad. I mean, it does for games, but whether he's bad and you fire him and hire somebody new, things will be in place to find success sooner. Is that and it's just like, well, we're just not going to do that right now because we don't think if we do give him resources, he might do something too good and then keep his job, and we don't want that, which also is not fair. Am I reading all this correctly?
Yeah, it's a toxic thing. It's kind of the damned if you do, damned if you don't type deal. And I think with what Arkansas has done and going back to the whole disconnect with the fans, I don't think fans just have a lot of trust for the administration right now. I know we're talking football, but you think about when Arkansas hired John Calipari, rocked the college basketball landscape. I mean, it was incredible. And you see how much he's making. And then you're on top of that, you're like, well, Calipari's not coming to Arkansas if he's not getting the budget for NIL and all that stuff that you would have at Kentucky, if not more so. Well, what it is you have John Tyson, who's best friends. He's just like, hey, whatever you need, Cal, I got you. And, same thing with even baseball, Razorback baseball, who, goes College World Series and everything. Dave Van Horn has a lot of connections with people. He's been here forever that love him, and they'll just say, hey, whatever you need, we'll got you. So it just feels like everyone's on their own little island. And then football and Sam Pittman are just kind of like, hey, we need the most because we're football. We have the most players, all that stuff. But the administration has just kind of mailed it in and said, hey, we're just going to try to see what it looks like over the next year with this rev share deal and then possibly go from there. But in doing so, you're killing the spirit and the excitement of Razorback football that people have had for so many years. And it's really hard for them to get it back unless wholesale changes are made to where they have people in place, whether it's coaches, whether it's administration, whether it's whoever, that can fully trust that their number one priority is winning. Because at the end of the day, that's all the fans care about. They want to win.
Yeah.
And if they don't feel like whoever's in charge has that in mind as their number one priority, then they don't really want you around. If you accept mediocrity, even if you don't believe it, lie to me about it and tell me that you don't. That's what fans have really been struggling with.
Are fans more likely to be like okay with a really bad start because it leads to change? And then because I get the follow-up, like one of the things I wanted to ask you was sort of where is this roster relative to, let's say, the last 4 or 5, like overall talent, let's say 1 to 50, 1 to 60, the two deep. Where, I mean, you got the quarterback coming back. He's an interesting and fun player. Like where is this roster then? Because it sounds like things go south. People are real anxious to make a move, but they had signs of growth last year. Like, it's such a weird place to be.
Yeah, well, and that's what it goes back to is that I think I look at it by position group, and just looking at it as like, all right, is it better, is it worse, or the same? And obviously with the quarterback situations you mentioned with Taylen Green, you feel really good about it. Having another year quarterback, and when he was healthy and everything, he's not to say he's the best quarterback in the SEC, but he's definitely holding his own. Like, all right, well, they'll be better there. But then you throw in, well, wait a minute, he lost all of his wide receivers from a year ago. You have a whole new wide receiver core in. You have a whole new tight end group. You lost all your tight ends to the portal. The offensive line, you're returning, I think, 1 or 2 of your starters. So, and then your running backs, you got 1 back. So it's okay. So he may be better, but does the weapons around him improve? I don't think so. And as far as scaling it from previous years and looking at the talent overall, I think that the only position groups that you will be just as good in, if not better than last year, it will be quarterback, offensive line, and that's it. Maybe the secondary, but even then, it would take a pretty strong push. And given that, plus, even if Arkansas was a better team, the record probably wouldn't show it because of the schedule and how brutal that schedule is. So the roster is problematic because it's just such an uncertainty. I mean, Luke was one of the preseason All-American tight ends. You lost him to Ole Miss. Patrick Kudus was your best offensive lineman. Lost him to Ole Miss. Jalen Braxton, your best defensive back. Lost him to Ole Miss. You had Brad Spence, who was one of your best linebacker. Lost to Texas. You think about a guy like Addison Nichols, he was your center last year. Lost him to SMU. Josh Braun, one of your best offensive linemen. Lost him to Kentucky. These aren't players that are going down in non-Power 5. They're going to the teams that are trying to beat you. And I'm sorry, but if those players are good enough to play at Ole Miss and good enough to play at Texas and good enough to play at SMU and Kentucky, then they're absolutely good enough to play for you at Arkansas. So the roster on paper to me looks like it potentially could be the worst roster. You may have some overall general better players, but you don't have any studs. You don't have a Landon Jackson. You don't have an Andrew Armstrong. You don't have these guys on this roster.
So what is your expectation? And I'm not looking for a win-loss record here. And it sounds like fans, if you're speaking the truth here, that fans would be on board with a bad season and changing of the guard wholesale. So what is the reasonable expectation after 10 total wins in 2 years.
Well, I think first off, the Razorback fans, not everybody maybe feels this way, but I know I feel this way. I'd still would feel I'd rather have an 8-4 season and Sam Pittman keep his job than go 4-8 and him lose it. You know, it's like you want at the end of the day, you don't want to ever tank for a coach to get fired. You don't want that. However, it just I just have a hard time believing that with a roster that's worse than what it was a year ago and a schedule that's exponentially tougher than what it was a year ago, and you went 6-6 last season, that it's going to be any better than that.
Yeah.
I don't see Arkansas going to a bowl game. If Sam Pittman goes 6-6 or 7-5, he might win Coach of the Year because of just what they're going to go up against. And for those of you who may be curious about it, Arkansas goes to Memphis in the non-conference. They play Arkansas State and Little Rock for the first time in program history between these two programs. They play Notre Dame, who happened to be in the championship game last year, at home. Their SEC road games this year are against Texas, who was in the playoff, Tennessee, who was in the playoff, Ole Miss, who barely missed the playoff, and LSU, who always knows it's a tough place to play. Those are their 4 SEC road games. And then at home, you have A&M, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Missouri. If anybody can look at that and say 100% without any doubt whatsoever, Arkansas wins 6 games with that schedule, I want what you're smoking because I don't even know what you're looking at. I would love it. It would be great. But I just don't see any way, shape, or form that this team goes to a bowl game next season with that schedule.
So this is going to be weird, but every now and then this happens to me as a fan of teams that I'm a fan of. It's like I've got it's house money, no? Like 8-4, pleasantly surprised, exciting season, won some games, probably rivalry games that you really are passionate about, like you said, Missouri and A&M and a few other games at home. And so, or it begins the permanent change because it's been bad, and you guys, should fans look at this as totally house money this year going into the season?
I mean, they look at it in the way of it's there's just going to be one or two results. You're either going to have an incredible year that no one saw coming, like a 7-5, 8-4, where you win some big games, or you're looking for a new head coach. Like that's the only two options here, and that's the only two avenues that people think. Because even if he goes 6-6, I mean, do you really want to keep a coach? And what's the excitement level going to be about when you have 3 straight seasons of 6-6? Actually, 2 straight seasons of 6-6, 3 of the last 4 years of 6-6, with that 1 year being a 4-8. Like, who's going to be excited and feeling that the trajectory of the program is moving in the right direction? And again, sometimes it's just about change. Sometimes it's just about inserting some new energy where you just want something to pop and get fans pumped up and excited and interested once again. And if you need an example of this, I know you've been in the content business for a long time, Braden, and I know I have been too. And with podcasting and everything, you get to see raw, serious, legit numbers. Football is always going to be king in most people's minds. I talk basketball, it kills it here in Arkansas. I'm talking baseball right now. It's killing it. Every time I talk football, people get mad and the numbers just collapse. And so I'm upset for my own business sake, but it's just a weird dynamic of trying to find reasons to get excited about the season has been difficult. And it doesn't seem like anybody even cares to try. It's literally wait and see mode of, hey, we'll watch the games, but we're not going to believe in you. We're not going to get excited until you actually show us any sort of reason to make us feel that way.
All right, well, let's have some little fun here. ML Rose, by the way, if you're in Nashville or if you are visiting town, of course, make sure you check out ML Rose Craft Beer and Burgers. Fantastic beer selection, one of the best menus, great for kids, great place to watch a game in Nashville. They're located all over the place, so if you're in town visiting or if you happen to live here, make sure you check out ML Rose. All right, I want to go a different direction then with you. 3 rivalries. Give me LSU's. I want to say fabricated. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say the Missouri one's fabricated either, but they are geographically and culturally very similar to Missouri. As I alluded to, having driven through South Missouri,
you just pissed off every Razorback fan known to man out that.
I hear you. Look, Northwest Arkansas very different than the rest of the state. I got it. But Texas, obviously, huge old school rivalry. A&M got a ton of juice in that rivalry. The games between Auburn and Ole Miss over the years are just spectacular. So if you're in the 3-6 model and you could prioritize the 3, I want to know who you guys would want to choose.
Yeah, because I've tried to convince Razorback fans. It's been the ultimate question of who's Arkansas's rival because they don't really have that one rival that hates them as much as they hate the other. So just hate everybody equally, and you just us against the world, which is I think Arkansas can kind of relate to. But if I was to choose three, and I've really thought about this, first and foremost, it has to be Texas. I know that everybody wants to play Texas, but Arkansas and Texas truly have so much history for those who may not know, the Southwest Conference that Arkansas was a part of for years was basically all Texas teams and Arkansas. Like Arkansas was the true outcast of that, but Arkansas had a lot of success in it. And there was one of the most iconic games, the 1969 shootout between Arkansas and Texas, considered the game of the century. So I think you got to keep Texas for that reason. I think Ole Miss, honestly, because there's a lot of connections there. There's a lot of history, as you said. We could spend a whole show talking about the history of these games and the wackiness that's gone along with them. I mean, the 7 overtime game, the Hunter Henry heave of 2015, and the madness surrounding that.
The fumble on the,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
There's so many for that, but I think Ole Miss would be the one there too. And this may be I don't want to say controversial, but this is my personal one. I want Oklahoma. And the reason I want Oklahoma is because Arkansas, you know where it's located. There has not been ever a team that's been in conference that's been close in proximity whatsoever. The SEC forever, the closest one was Ole Miss and Oxford, which is a 6 to 7 hour drive from Fayetteville. I mean, there's just nothing close to it. Even Missouri up in Columbia is a 5.5, 6 hour drive.
Yeah.
It's just nothing's close. However, Norman is a 3 hour drive. So I feel like for the sake of location, for the sake of similarities there and just getting on 412 and heading all the way across, proximity wise, I would love to see that. But again, we know that Arkansas and Missouri are just stuck together. It's the way it is. It's kind of like when Arkansas and LSU were there. LSU didn't not want to play Arkansas, but Arkansas wanted to play LSU. Arkansas kind of got the same treatment where they don't want to play Missouri, but Missouri wants to play Arkansas. And so it's just going to get stuck that way. But yeah, if it was me, I'd say Texas, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss would be my three.
If Missouri was more opportunity for success, would you be okay with it?
I mean, yeah.
Because in theory, it should be, right? Like you should win that game more.
Because that's the thing, too, is I feel like Arkansas has a knack for playing teams when they first schedule them. They're not any good, but then they end up being great when they end up scheduling them. Yeah. So, and the Missouri thing is like they want it a lot more. I mean, Eli Drinkwitz, I'm not a fan of his at all. I know a lot of people aren't. He's the only coach that has ever called me out personally on someone else's podcast at SEC Football Media Days. I'm like, dude, me of all people, that's weird.
He's got rabbit ears for sure.
Yeah,
him and Calipari.
Oh yeah,
Calipari hears everything too.
Oh, I'm telling you, yeah, especially for a guy that's not on social media much. Cal definitely.
Oh my god,
a lot of things. Yeah. But I think that with the Missouri thing, it's just what it is. It is what it is. Is Missouri the only sport that they're even relatively good in is football? I mean, basketball's not been great. Baseball, everything. So I don't know. It depends on the sport too. Really,
I am not. Look, I will admit, not spent a lot of time in Fayetteville. So culturally, this is sort of totally outsider perspective. But I've lived my entire life in Dallas and Georgia and Tennessee, most of it, and Austin, and I've just a southeastern kind of experience in my life, and sort of SEC football is in my blood. I've not spent a lot of time in Missouri, but from the outside looking in, it feels like over 30 years that could develop into something really interesting. But again, I'm not in it, so I don't want to sort of speak, I'm from the outside, but proximity wise, they are the only two that are sort of like where they are. Now Oklahoma's joined, and to your point, that's a really interesting geographic note that I had not even thought of. But from the outside looking in, as an SEC East guy growing up, like Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, it does feel like that it should and could, at their best, develop into something very interesting. And it sounds like Razorback fans are like, no, we don't want that at all.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't. And it's like everyone's like, well, because Missouri just wins every time. And so it's been frustrating for that, because I think Missouri takes a lot more seriously sometimes than Arkansas, which is a lot of reasons why Arkansas would have success against LSU. I think that there was elements of that, but it's just Arkansas hates being forced into a bubble. And that's what they felt like with Missouri, because Arkansas and LSU used to play the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
This is where it all started, and this is why it was squandered and soured from the beginning. Arkansas and LSU play each other on Black Friday on CBS at 1 p.m. every year. And a lot of times the games were in Little Rock War Memorial and then in Baton Rouge. And there was a lot of times where that game came down to who won the SEC West in the early mid 2000s. So, there was a little bit of history there. But then as soon as Missouri and A&M joins, they're like, okay, LSU, you get A&M, and well, Arkansas, I guess you're just going to get Missouri. You're going to get stuck with them. And then, we got this name. Oh, and here you go. Here's what we're going to call it. It's going to be called the Battle Line Rivalry. And here's a trophy. Like just before they even played. And it was like, okay, well, hold on a second. Like it seemed like it was forced into this box that nobody wanted to be in. And anytime you get put into a forced marriage, it's never going to develop into love. It's never going to develop into hate. It's never going to develop. It's just going to be awkward all the time because of how it started. So I think that's a big problem of if it would have been organic, 100% could see it, but there's always just going to be that feeling of, you had an odd number in the class as kids, and when you partnered up, you got the, the weird kid in the back corner that no one wanted to be with, and just
you guys were sitting next to each other in the classroom, like of course you guys were buddies. No, here's the thing: LSU A&M is one of the most underrated rivalries in all of college football, not just football, but every sport. Culturally, there's so much overlap there because of after Katrina, all the people that moved from Louisiana and frankly, nobody culturally aligns with Louisiana just in general, which I like. I kind of like that they're unique like that. So I don't know. I think it's smart that objectively you have to step back and say LSU A&M, they belong together in this conversation.
I don't disagree. However, when Texas and Oklahoma joined, then A&M and Texas became the natural Thanksgiving weekend, final weekend rival. So then it could have been, hey, LSU Arkansas, let's get you back there. Nope. LSU Oklahoma. Why? Oklahoma and Missouri, I feel like would have more history in that final game than Arkansas and Missouri. So I feel like there was an opportunity they could have changed it.
I think they played 94 times, Missouri and Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of football. Well, look, okay, let me ask you one more then, and we'll let you go. And I do appreciate you being very patient. ML Rose, of course. Make sure you check out Inside Arkansas Locked On as well. I get asked this a lot, South Carolina fans as well. And that is, if I gave you like 5 or 6 Big 12 championships since 92, but the prestige and the history and the money and the shoulder patch and all the memories, do you say no in 92? If I gave you like 5 conference championships, I don't know what the number would be. How many conference championships would you need in the Big 12? Because I think you would have, if they would have stayed, I think you would have come along with Texas and Oklahoma and made it to the SEC anyway. But I'm just curious, like top flight Big 12 program or where you've been in 30 years in the SEC. What do you do?
Well, I still to this day feel Frank Broyles, rest his soul, iconic legend in Arkansas, athletic director for years and former coach. Did a lot of good things, did a lot of not so good things, but the greatest thing he ever did was getting Arkansas into the SEC.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Very forward thinking.
And I need like 8. You need like 8 championships then.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it would take a lot because I don't fully even agree that Arkansas, if they had stayed and gotten into the Big 12, that Arkansas would have gotten an invite to the SEC with this whole group. I really don't think they would have. I think because of the timing with Texas and Oklahoma and the brands that they bring, it's that Arkansas would have been like an Oklahoma State, kind of left on their own. And so I believe, and this is my mentality. So it almost irks me how many people will write articles about like, Arkansas should move to the Big 12 or should have moved to the Big 12. Like one, okay, football hasn't been the highly successful thing. No, but guess what? Arkansas has played in 3 SEC title games in football since they joined. Ole Miss has played in 0. Mississippi State played in 1.
South Carolina's got 1. Kentucky's got 0. Vanderbilt's got 0. Yeah.
So it's not, yes, it's been like not so great, especially recently, but it's not like it's just been this garbage that they've never even competed in the SEC.
Right.
And for crying out loud, they've won the SEC West 3 times, or at least tied it, and other teams were on probation and they helped themselves for it. But they had that. They had Darren McFadden in those years and how great they were. They had the Matt Jones years, Ryan Mallett, rest in peace, and the Petrino years that were great and going to the Sugar Bowl. Like it's sometimes I think people just overlook the fact that sometimes it's about who having the right people in charge. And I think Arkansas has just done a very poor job of getting the right coaches in place and everything. But to me, to answer your question,
Because I agree, by the way. I just want to make sure everybody knows. Like, I'm asking this more as a function of like an experiment here. I completely agree. You got to take the money, the stability, the prestige. The theory is, though, you still have all of those memories. You still have McFadden. You still have Peyton Hillis and Matt Jones and Ryan Mallett. You still have all that stuff. But the result is a conference championship and you see what I'm saying? Like, the result is just a little bit more of something. I don't know what that might be. I think asking the same question to South Carolina is equally as interesting. Like, what would it have taken to not do it? Because I think Arkansas, more so than South Carolina, gets an invite 2012, 2024. I think Arkansas is in the SEC sort of regardless, if that makes sense.
And maybe that's the case, but I've just looked at it as I'd rather, as weird as it is, I'd rather be in a position to where, and things have changed now with the playoff even, because let's be honest, there was a stretch where if you won the SEC, you were going to play in the national championship game.
Yeah.
And that was kind of your best shot at it. And then, things have changed obviously in the playoff. And now I feel like Arkansas's best chances, the more the playoff expands, the better chance they have of getting in. But I always just looked at it as I want to play with the best. I want to be the best. And some of the years that, like when I was in college at the University of Arkansas, I was very lucky where I had the McFadden years at the end and then the Petrino years. And to me, the Petrino years in 2010, 2011 was some of the prime of the SEC. And Arkansas proved they were one of the best teams then. So it's been proven, and I feel good about it. You just got to get the right coach in. I know things have changed, but I like the SEC, and I think Arkansas fits culturally. And if you ever need an example of it, and this is why I don't think Missouri will ever fit culturally, it all comes down to what you wear at games. If you wear jerseys and hoodies at games, you don't belong in the SEC.
Oh, come
Missouri
on.
does. And Arkansas, they have collared shirts. They dress like they're going to an event in the South. So that's my biggest argument.
I love this debate. This is like my wife and I's biggest debate. I love this because I am I would prefer like 52 degrees and sunny, but like a hoodie on and some like shorts and drinking beer. Like I go to Georgia games or I go to Auburn games. And I'm just like, what are you people doing? Like Ole Miss is, but don't get me wrong, going to the Grove is, especially for a younger version of myself, was spectacular. But I'm just like, this is too much trouble. I'm in my 40s now. Like, I can't deal with this. This is too much trouble. I like cooler weather with hoodies and casual, soft, as my kids say, soft clothes. I don't like wearing hard clothes.
Well, one, I'll say, like, I think almost everybody will agree with you, though. But if it doesn't matter, if you go to a wedding and everyone's dressed in suits and then you don't want to be the one that's not. It's almost like, you just don't want to be that person, number one. And two, the Grove is the most overrated crap of all time, because I don't care what anybody says. You can talk. It's probably fine, whatever. But you cannot say you're the best party and the best tailgate and the best everything in the SEC if you have a beer can walking around or beers with you that you get them poured out in front of you by the police. You can't be the same. We're the coolest party, craziest ever, when you got the cops running around saying, "Oh, is that a beer can?" Gotta pour it out. Come on, man.
Just act like you've been there before. That's all. Let the cops should just look at you and be like, "Are you acting like you've been there before?" Then go about your day. Go about your business. Exactly. That's how it should work. Exactly. I'm with you on that. It's funny you said 10, like 9, 10, 11, 12, 2000s are like sort of the heyday of the SEC. Not for folks in the East.
No.
That was bad Georgia, bad Kentucky, bad Florida, bad Tennessee. That was there was some bad coaches in there with the Doolander in Knoxville and Joker Phillips. It was some bad.
Yeah, but on the other side,
the West was loaded then.
Yeah. But I mean, on the other side is you got Urban Meyer there at the little bit of the end, and then you also had James Franklin at Vanderbilt.
Franklin took advantage of those coaches.
yeah. Steve Spurrier at South Carolina. I mean, it wasn't as epic as it needed to be, but
the West was sick back then.
Yeah, and it's funny. The worst coach in the West was Houston Nutt. I mean, truly at Ole Miss. Everybody else was great.
I worked with Houston Nutt for about 4 years, and that is one of the most interesting human beings I've ever worked with. I'm sure you guys all know all that stuff. So
don't get me started on Houston Nutt, man, because I could do a whole nother show on that one.
Well, we'll have to bring you back then, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for joining. We do appreciate it. Make sure everybody out there listening, check out Inside Arkansas and all the work that John's putting in. Do appreciate it. Thanks to ML Rose as well. John, thank you so much for coming on, man. Do appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.